Let's predict every NFL team's 2025 season, starting with the obvious ones, the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland's now 1 year closer to releasing Deshaun Watson. In the meantime, they're granting Joe Flacco a retirement tour, paying Myles Garrett the rest of the money they have, and probably throwing him a few shell companies, and giving Shedeur Sanders a sideline pass. Expect them to squeak out a couple upsets with their strong defense, but to ultimately finish with under 5 wins. The Carolina Panthers, the David Tepper era continues in Carolina, and while he's made fewer headlines lately, he still hasn't been able to put together a quality product on the field. Besides Derek Brown and Robert Hunt, this team really doesn't have any Pro Bowl level talents. This is a 5-win team max. The LA Chargers, we've seen what pregame alcohol has done for great quarterbacks in the past, so we'll see what beer can do for Herbert. In all seriousness though, the Chargers have a top 5 head coach quarterback combo, and they seem destined for a deep playoff run in the near future, but I think they're still at least a year away. They need a good offseason to finalize some of their loose ends. I see LA ending with double-digit wins this season, but I think they'll likely lose in the wild card. The Tampa Bay Bucks, how many Pro Bowl players can you fit on one roster without creating a Super Bowl contender? The Bucks have been trying to figure that out. With the amount of talent they have, Tampa's a shoo-in for the playoffs. However, they're just not as solid as the top squads in the NFC and don't have an elite X factor on offense. Expect the Bucks to win the NFC South, but to ultimately sink out of the playoffs in mid-January. The New Orleans Saints, their offseason featured a long training camp battle between Spencer Rattler and Tyler Shuck for the right to start at quarterback and lead New Orleans to the first overall pick. Just looking at their roster, this team likely won't get many wins this season. The New York Jets, luckily Aaron Rodgers is gone, so the Jets can go back to missing the playoffs in peace. New York's strong in the trenches and should be a tough team to beat no matter who they're playing, but with how inconsistent Justin Fields can be, along with their up and down defense, it's hard to imagine them making a serious playoff push. Expect 5 to 6 wins. The Philadelphia Eagles, spitting on dudes and pushing male tushes, common themes in both Eagles games and Diddy parties. Nonetheless, this is still the most stacked squad in the league, and with the brotherly shove surviving another offseason, I don't see much resistance for them in the NFC. Barring another locker room civil war, I think they'll once again secure the number 1 seed and win the Super Bowl. The Miami Dolphins, the Dolphins have been great against the little fish in the NFL, but have consistently failed against the Sharks. Miami's offense is explosive enough to keep them from the bottom tier of teams, but in the McDaniel era, they just haven't been solid enough all around to win against playoff level competition. Expect them to regress and be in the 5 to 6 win range this year. So those are the teams I feel have the most obvious projections. It gets a little trickier from here on out, but there are still some teams left that have a somewhat clear path. Before we move on though, let's talk about Rate Game and their NFL season giveaway. Rate Game's a free app that serves as a social media for sports fans. You can review games you've watched, create custom lists, and interact with posts from your community of fellow fans. It's really fun to use in my opinion, and like I said, it's free to download. So make sure to add me on there and I'll follow you guys back. To enter their NFL jersey giveaway contest, just create an account using the link in the comments below and rate a game on the app before the end of September. Winner will be announced on October 1st. Thanks to Rate Game for sponsoring this video. The Seattle Seahawks, the third team after the Jets and Panthers to invest in Sam Darnold as their franchise quarterback. I don't see this run going much different for him. Seattle's got good players on both sides of the ball, but they're pretty mid overall. This is another 5 to 6 win team. The Baltimore Ravens, the playoff choke's gotta stop at some point. I think this is the year they make the run. Their offense is still great. Henry gives them a really high floor, and Lamar gives them the upside to be the best in the league. The defense has the potential to be really solid, especially now with offseason additions Mike Green and Jair Alexander. Expect them to win their division and make it to the Super Bowl before ultimately finding a way to lose the championship game. The Dallas Cowboys, it's gone so bad in Dallas that we're now seeing load management against them. With Parsons gone, their lack of star power on defense is noticeable, and because of that, it's tough to imagine Dallas beating many good teams this year. Expect 5 to 6 wins and no playoffs. The Buffalo Bills, how many years in a row can a Super Bowl contender go without improving their roster? It seems like the Bills have just been capped at the same talent level since 2020. Buffalo's once again a threat in 2025, but I think they'll have to wait at least another year for their Super Bowl. I think they'll once again lose in either the divisional or conference round. The Pittsburgh Steelers, could Aaron Rodgers put up a Vikings Favre-esque season? Rodgers gets another chance at a Super Bowl run after a long career with the Packers and a failed season with the Jets. Similar to Favre's situation in 2009, except A-Rod's doing it as a Steeler. Favre was never a Steeler until after his NFL career. A-Rod gives Pittsburgh a huge upgrade at quarterback, but considering their weak run game and unreliable pass protection, it's tough to imagine them going deep in the playoffs. Expect the Steelers to pull through in a lot of close games and end the season with 10 wins and a wild card before losing in the first round of the playoffs. The Denver Broncos, the defensive version of the Miami Dolphins. The Broncos smother bad offenses with their elite defense, but get lit up by top-tier quarterbacks. Expect Denver to win 8 or 9 games and just barely miss out on the playoffs. The Arizona Cardinals, a team on the rise. Last season, Arizona improved their year-over-year win total by 4 games. With the defensive additions they brought in, I think they'll improve this year again and get to double-digit wins and take the NFC West. They'll likely get bounced in the wildcard round, but overall, it'll be a good year for Arizona. The Indianapolis Colts, with Anthony Richardson jeopardizing their chances of once again going 8-9. The Colts had to bring in Danny Dimes, a decent quarterback who can keep them in their rightful spot as a mid-team. The Colts have plenty of solid players on their roster, but just lack star power. Expect them to be on the playoff bubble, but to just barely miss out. The Houston Texans, their offensive line patch job likely won't hold up, so even though they have an elite defense, I think they won't go far in the playoffs. The LA Rams, assuming Stafford gets some icy hot for his back, the Rams will have the second best quarterback in the NFC, along with arguably the best offensive play caller. They've shown that they can be competitive versus Philly, so if LA gets some lucky breaks this season, they could sneak into the Super Bowl. The Jacksonville Jaguars, with a new head coach and the addition of a dynamic receiver like Travis Hunter, the Jaguars should improve this year. However, due to their shaky quarterback play and their overall lack of star power, I think they're still likely to only get 5 to 6 wins. The New York Giants. New York still hasn't deodorized the stench of the Dable Shane era. Even with a healthy Malik Neighbors, their offense is still one of the worst in the NFC. New York's defense has a lot of potential, but overall for this year, it's going to be another less than 5-win season. The Tennessee Titans. Cam Ward survived week 1 without getting publicly bashed by head coach Brian Callahan, so he's already ahead of where Will Levis was last season. Ward should give the Titans their best quarterback play in recent memory. On top of that, the team's defense is also very underrated. They posted some great numbers early last year. Overall, the Titans are heading in the right direction. I think they'll improve on their record from last year and win 5 to 6 games. The Green Bay Packers, officially a Super Bowl threat since a couple weeks ago. Micah Parsons transforms their defense from mid to at least top 10 status. Their front seven trio of Parsons, Gary, and Edgerrin Cooper should quickly become one of the most dominant in the league. Offensively, they have an efficient and dependable running game, and they're also good in the air. Green Bay is still a level below the Eagles, but I think they're number 2 in the NFC right now and can easily sneak into the Super Bowl. The Washington Commanders, they still have the best quarterback in the NFC and now have Laramie Tunsil as well as Deebo Samuel. They can maybe make the NFC Championship again, but it's going to take some luck for them to get to the Super Bowl. The Atlanta Falcons, they're basically the Colts of the NFC. They got a bunch of good players, but not enough top-level guys. Expect them to get 8 or 9 wins and miss the playoffs again. The San Francisco 49ers, San Fran's roster may be kind of washed, but they still do have a lot of talent, and considering how easy their schedule is, they're basically a shoo-in to make the playoffs. Expect them to get double-digit wins and a wildcard seed before ultimately losing pretty early in the playoffs. Let's look at the tiers again. For the most part, I feel pretty good about all these placements. Now, there are 7 teams remaining, and I think these are the trickiest ones to predict. The New England Patriots. The Pats now have the most nails head coach in the league, but how quickly can Vrabel implement his philosophies and alter the team's trajectory? Their roster on paper looks really solid, but they're still lacking standout players on offense, and defensively, Christian Gonzalez hasn't been able to stay healthy. Expect about 6 wins for New England. The Minnesota Vikings, former first-round pick J.J. McCarthy takes over as their starting quarterback. It's easy to see why Kevin O'Connell's a fan. Obviously, there's the physical resemblance, but besides that, McCarthy's a big dude with a great arm and impressive mobility. Inserting him into an already strong offense should ease his transition into the starting role. On the other side of the ball, Minnesota also has a great defense. Overall, they've got a stacked coaching staff and roster, but due to McCarthy's inexperience and their tough schedule, I think they'll just barely miss out on the playoffs. The Detroit Lions, they lost both their coordinators, including offensive savant Ben Johnson, whose absence will likely leave a noticeable mark. We'll see how far just pure kneecap biting takes them. I think they fall in the same boat as the Vikings, a good team that has to play a lot of playoff level squads. Overall, I think they'll get 8 or 9 wins, but no playoffs. The Las Vegas Raiders, Vegas now has the oldest coach in the league, the great Pete Carroll. Sure, you might forget where he is at times, but he's still an elite coach. They also have a great new offensive duo with Geno Smith and Ashton Genty. There's a lot to like with this Raiders team, and they definitely have upset potential. That said, the AFC is really crowded, so I think the playoffs are slightly out of their reach. Expect 8 or 9 wins. The Chicago Bears, something's got to give. Arguably the best offensive play caller meets the quarterback who refuses to play well from the pocket. Even with all the talent Chicago has at receiver and on their new offensive line, I still think they'll post below average numbers. Overall, this is a solid squad, but due to their shaky quarterback play and their tough schedule, expect them to get 7 to 8 wins max. And the final 2 teams, the Chiefs and Bengals, the toughest squads to predict. The Kansas City Chiefs, they've got bigger problems than trying to figure out where Brazil is on a map. KC has one of the least explosive offenses in the entire league. They're starting a 4-6 running back, 35-year-old Travis Kelce, as well as Juju Smith-Schuster and Hollywood Brown. There's very little separation down the field, so their whole passing offense is basically just Mahomes improvising. Due to this, Kansas City's going to struggle to score points and have a lot of close games again this year, and they likely won't be as fortunate as they were in 2024. They're still solid in the trenches and have Pat Mahomes, but their season will ultimately come down to the caliber of receiver they can acquire before the trade deadline. Rashee Rice will obviously help when he comes back, but I think they need another legitimate target, or else they might get blown out again in the playoffs. It's tempting to say KC won't win their division, but I do think they'll win it. I think they end up as the number 3 seed in the AFC, and depending on the receiver they bring in, they'll either lose early in the playoffs or make a Super Bowl run. A frustrated star like Tyreek Hill or Rashid Shaheed or even DJ Moore could become a surprise trade candidate, and a guy like that could make a huge impact for the Chiefs. For now, we'll just say they can maybe sneak into the Super Bowl with some luck. The Cincinnati Bengals, with no clear favorite in the AFC, the Bengals could be a potential Super Bowl squad. They've still got an elite offense, but they're also solid on defense now, since he got a bunch of guys back from injury, and their new edge duo of Trey Hendrickson and Shamar Stewart is a tough one to handle. Two physical guys who are effective against both the run and pass. They can do a lot to help solidify this defensive unit. Ultimately, this is a really good squad, but their offensive line and defense are pretty volatile. I think the Bengals earn a playoff spot and make a good run at the Super Bowl, but fall just short. So those are my predictions for the 2025 NFL season. You can see the 14 playoff teams in this tier list. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and make sure to subscribe if you like the content. Thanks for watching, and I'm out.